Okay, I'm back at my weave. Now, the string that was marking the 20 inches has already disappeared into the work down here. Actually, you can see it's been rolled up, see right there? And then I measured another 20. Here's my 40-inch string right here, okay? Now, as I recall, each blanket was going to have 46 inches total, okay? So I should be able to go up another 6 inches. But 3 inches on this end is going to be fringe, and of course 3 inches on the other end that's buried. So when I get to, I think, 43 inches, I'm going to start inserting these rolls, okay? And I just want you to imagine I'm going to line these up along here, okay? Not obviously not at the 40-inch mark, but say up here. And it's going to block the beater, the heddle, from coming down and beating all the way. And so we're going to see how that works. But I do, shockingly, I do seem to have enough of this variegated color. And what I did is that old trick I did before is when I was getting to the point where I was a little nervous if I was going to have enough, I looked at my label, and my original skein had 113 grams. That means that each blanket, if I had enough yardage on here, each blanket would get about 57 grams of this. And so I started putting my remainder on here to weigh it. This is about 60 grams. And so I think I can probably finish with this, or maybe a little bit more, because I just need to get up to just above here, above that string. So I think I might have enough. I don't think I'm going to have to buy another skein of that. Hip hip hooray. I put a double line of black thread at a base, and I'll probably put another one somewhere up here, so they'll be kind of matching at the ends of the blanket. Okay, so we're making progress. All right, I've gotten to the end of the weaving on the first blanket, and now it's time to put my spacers in. That's what I'm going to call them, okay? Let me see. I'd like to have about 6 inches. That's 5 inches that way. 4.5. I guess I'm going to do them this way. Yeah, and that'll work with the curve as well. But the nice thing is that I should be able to slip these in through the threads. Now, all I'm trying to do is prevent the heddle from being able to come down, so I don't have to get every single little yarn blockaded off, I don't think. This will be a noble experiment, if nothing else. Time to eat. Okay. Okay. You know, I'm going to have a segment down there. I think I might have, let's see how it rolls. So this string down here, this yarn down here, these will be my fringe. And so now I'm going to start weaving through here. Let's give you a little close-up of this strange thing I have done. These are all those different toilet paper rolls. Now you could put anything in there. You could put paper in there. You could put old yarn in there. It would just take quite a bit of it in order to leave the amount of space you needed for the fringe on this end and the fringe on this end. The other thing you could do is just weave one long blanket, cut it in the middle, and then remove a lot of the yarn. But that would be a significant waste of yarn unless you were going to use it for something else. So let me show you how I'm going to start this weave on the second blanket. Okay. So the heddle is down. I like to have a down heddle on my, and run my shoulder strut on my left side. I'm going to check and make sure that all that yarn is right, so you can see if you've missed any. Leave a nice tail out on the other end. It'll take a few rows to get this settled in a very straight, very long weave. And I'm going to tidy all this up after I cut it off. I'm going to make sure that the weave is all smooth on both ends before I start doing any knotting. And the knots, of course, will help. The knots above the fringe will help keep some more tension on this too. But the knots will help keep everything tight on this end here. Talked to my daughter this morning and showed her the blanket. She had seen it online on my previous video, but she said she did like the pattern, so that's a good thing. I do want to do something to these blankets to make them individual to the two boys. I might, hand stitch some little animal in the corner, or maybe their initials in the corner, so that they're so they don't confuse their blankets. Because to little children, having something that belongs just to you and you know that it's yours is very important. And I've said this before in weaving. I know that some people, if you've seen those big professional looms, you're like, oh man, hand weaving looks so slow. However, if we timed me doing this and how long it takes me to do, say, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, let's say 10 rows. I mean, it might take me a couple of minutes. If I were knitting this or crocheting this, and I were trying to get that much height on a knitted or crocheted blanket that was this wide, I do think it would take longer. Not that it's not a race. Certainly not a race. That is one thing mentioned recently by Kate Jackson, whose YouTube station I love. It's called The Last Homely House. She's so calming, and I love her voice, and I love what she does. And she mentioned how long some of her projects take, and that some people, some of her friends, I guess, just wonder, why are you willing to do something, make a blanket or a quilt or whatever, that takes so long? It's not a very efficient use of time, but efficient use of time is not always the goal. Sometimes what you really want is the making of it. It's not the finished product you're after, it's actually the project itself that is the joy. It keeps your hands busy, is fun and creative. There's many, many reasons why the actual doing of the project is the reason that you make the thing you're making. So, all that to say, people who want to do projects in a hurry, that's great. People who want to do projects slowly, that's great too. All right, well, I'm going to keep on going on this. Let me turn the camera off and show you how it is later on. But I'm starting to feel better about this. Early on in this weave, I was actually very discouraged, and I didn't come back to it for a couple of weeks because of the mismanagement I feel like I gave it early on when I was warping up, and the uncertainty of whether I felt like it was a good baby blanket. But I'm feeling a little more confidence now. So I'm gonna get it. I have to get this done because I got to start the blankets for the two little girls. And I'm much more certain of my amount of yarn on that, because the third yarn that I actually have in my stash, I have lots of it, and it's a very pretty pale peach color that I think, even if it has to be the main warp, will be good. All right, well, here is, I think, the end of this 2-blanket weave, and I've taken it off of my loom and put it onto this table. And although from this perspective you can't tell it, this blanket is significantly shorter than that blanket. This is the worst part of this weave, I think, was that the fact that my measuring was off, or my brain was not working. This blanket, from just the woven part, not the fringe, is going to end up being... And I love her voice, and I love what she does. And she mentioned how long some of her projects take, and that some people, some of her friends, I guess, just wonder, why are you willing to do something, make a blanket or a quilt or whatever, that takes so long? It's not a very efficient use of time, but efficient use of time is not always the goal. Sometimes what you really want is the making of it. It's not the finished product you're after, it's actually the project itself that is the joy. It keeps your hands busy, is fun and creative. There's many, many reasons why the actual doing of the project is the reason that you make the thing you're making. So, all that to say, people who want to do projects in a hurry, that's great. People who want to do projects slowly, that's great too. All right, well, I'm going to keep on going on this. Let me turn the camera off and show you how it is later on. But I'm starting to feel better about this. Early on in this weave, I was actually very discouraged, and I didn't come back to it for a couple of weeks because of the mismanagement I feel like I gave it early on when I was warping up, and the uncertainty of whether I felt like it was a good baby blanket. But I'm feeling a little more confidence now. So I'm gonna get it. I have to get this done because I got to start the blankets for the two little girls. And I'm much more certain of my amount of yarn on that, because the third yarn that I actually have in my stash. I have lots of it. And it's a very pretty pale peach color that I think, even if it has to be the main warp, will be good. All right, well here is, I think, the end of this 2-blanket weave. And I've taken it off of my loom and put it onto this table. And although from this perspective you can't tell it, this blanket is significantly shorter than that blanket. This is the worst part of this weave, I think, was the fact that my measuring was off, or my brain was not working. This blanket, from just the woven part, not the fringe, is going to end up being about 27 inches long. And this one is about 37 inches. So neither one of them is going to be well, I guess 37 is about, no, that's not right. They should have been 40 inches. And this one particularly is just a lot shorter, and I'm not really sure why. However, let me, on the positive note, say that I think this contraption in the middle actually really worked. So I'm going to take this out. You can actually lift it right out of the middle. I'm going to save these because I'm going to use them in the next blanket. I make no guarantees of measuring the next baby blankets for the 2 girls, because this one I messed up on so bad, I now have no faith in my ability to measure blankets. So it might be a teeny little blanket, or it might be a long blanket. But they are babies. The one who I suppose will get the bigger blanket, he will be 2 this summer, and the one that's going to get the littler blanket, he's just 6 months old now. So I think that's okay. Now, usually, now here's the bottom of the weave. You see, and I have that scrap yarn in there. Here's the top of the weave. Oh, that dropped off. Here's the top of the weave, and normally, as I cut it off, you know, that end will be wound up. And normally as I cut it off of that back stick, I would knot every 3 or 4 or 6 yarns and knot them right down here close to the edge to just tighten that all up before I take it off. But this time I really wanted to be able, hang on. I really wanted to be able to lay these blankets flat and make sure that there was no puckering, especially along the edges or on the inside. I wanted to spread these out because your extra yarn, of course, is on these ends, and you can smooth this out while they're unattached. And I can't tell you how many little mistakes there are where I missed a little piece of yarn in the weave. Must because I think the tension was not great. Okay, so all right, I'm going to cut this in the middle now, very carefully. There's that tail. I even saw where my little strings were attached on the side, and that was supposed to be 20 inches each time, 40 inches total. And it was not. I'm sorry, I look a little bit of a fright today. If you could see, I'm wearing a chicken skirt. I was wearing socks. I took those off because that looked really jiggy. All right. I said before, I don't want really long fringe on a baby blanket. I think a little bit of fringe will do. Okay, I'm going to leave this short one for just a bit. I'm going to work on this one first since both of its ends are loose. And I'll get back to you after I've tied these off, okay? Well, here I am back in my studio with weaving carnage all around me. Here's the first blanket. It's so small. I think it's just perfect for a child to carry around. I didn't want a bed blanket. This is, as we call them, a baby blanket, which is something for a child to carry. A lovey, some people call them. I have the usual failures that I have in weaving in this blanket. A lack of tension, which makes it so that I sometimes miss some warp yarns when I'm going across, and that really shows up in the final. But there's not too many of those. I'm so used to the color pattern now. I guess I'm okay with it. My daughter said she likes it fine. I did have pretty short fringe on one end where the paper towel rolls were, or the toilet paper rolls were, and so I had to have equally short lengths of fringe on the other end. And they were so short that I couldn't tie them like I prefer to, like you would on a shawl, where you just loop them around and pass them through itself. I had to actually, with each fringe, divide it into two halves and tie a knot. And that makes them kind of splay open, but I think it'll be fine after a while. They actually kind of cute. They have kind of a pokey look. So anyway, I'm fine with this, and I'm going to finish the shorter one. I still have to tie all the knots on that. That's very time consuming, the finishing of that. And then I will save these and give them to the boys this summer. And so we're making progress. I did really like the toilet paper roll divisions in the middle. There's probably like a totally simpler way to do that, but that's what came into my mind. And if it's useful to you, I hope you'll be able to do that too. Thanks.